Good morning, one and all. Topic for today is frozen shoulder, a manual therapy point of view. We'll be dealing with anatomy and normal biomechanics of frozen shoulder. Of shoulder. Frozen shoulder, its definition, history, and causes. Pathomechanics of frozen shoulder, manual therapy treatment. As we already know, shoulder complex is formed by four joints, that is one false and three true joints. Scapulothoracic, which is a false joint, and acromioclavicular, sternoclavicular, and glenohumeral joints, which are true joints. Coming to the movements occurring at each joint: sternoclavicular joint, clavicular elevation, depression, protraction, retraction; acromioclavicular joint, upward rotation, downward rotation, elevation, depression, protraction, retraction of the clavicle; glenohumeral joint, flexion, extension, abduction, adduction, internal and external rotation, horizontal abduction and horizontal adduction; scapulothoracic joint, upward rotation, downward rotation, adduction, abduction, protraction, retraction, elevation, depression, anterior and posterior tipping of the scapula. Stability concept of the shoulder complex. Stability of the shoulder is maintained by static stability mechanism and dynamic stability mechanism. Static stability mechanism is provided by bony, ligamentous, negative atmospheric pressure, joint pressure, and volumes. Dynamic stability mechanism is produced by force couples with glenohumeral joint and scapulothoracic joint, rotator cuff vectors, neuromuscular control, and function. As we already discussed in the previous video, that static stability is provided by the ligaments, that is your coracoclavicular, acromioclavicular, coracohumeral ligaments. Again, coracoclavicular is divided into two parts, that is your conoid and trapezoid ridge. Dynamic stability is produced by your rotator cuff. The main action of the rotator cuff is centralization of the humeral head into the glenoid fossa so that the humeral head doesn't dislocate anywhere during the movement. Coming to the biomechanical aspects of the scapulohumeral rhythm. Normal scapulohumeral rhythm ratio is equal to 2:1, where for every 2 degree of glenohumeral joint motion is to 1 degree of scapulothoracic motion. The formula of scapulothoracic motion is given by 30 degree of clavicular elevation plus 30 degree of clavicular upward rotation at the sternoclavicular and acromioclavicular joint respectively. This clavicular motion, that is at sternoclavicular and acromioclavicular motion during arm track elevation, is due to when the scapula moves upward, there is something called as coracoclavicular ligament, a conoid part of coracoclavicular ligament which is attached from scapula to the inferior aspect of the clavicle, pulls the clavicle into elevation and upward rotation during the upward rotation of the scapula. Hence, very important part of the scapulohumeral rhythm is your sternoclavicular and acromioclavicular motion, that is clavicular elevation and clavicular upward rotation respectively. Capsular obligate translation. This means nothing but split the term capsular obligate translation. When something happens to the capsule of the shoulder complex, that is traumatized, the humeral head translates itself in the opposite direction. That is, obligate is nothing but opposite, translation is nothing but translatory movement. Coming to the scapulothoracic and glenohumeral force couples. In scapulothoracic force couples, as already told, upward rotation of the scapula is very important in your flexion and abduction. Considering abduction as an example, for 30 to 90 degree of abduction, the axis of rotation for the scapula for upward rotation is superior angle, and the fibers activating are upper and middle fibers of trapezius and lower digitation of serratus anterior, as you can look into the diagram. For further abduction, that is for 90 to 150 degree of abduction, lower fibers of trapezius and upper digitation of serratus anterior are very important, the axis of rotation being acromioclavicular joint. Now coming to glenohumeral force couples. At rest, the deltoid produces 45% of compressive force in the superior direction, whereas supraspinatus produces 65% of compressive force in the superior direction. Deltoid being bulkiest muscle of the shoulder complex, also being multi-axial muscle, the rotator cuff, the vector of the deltoid changes along with its alignment towards the scapula. Hence, at 90 degree of abduction, the deltoid produces maximum compressive force. This is nothing but your glenohumeral force couple. Also, two muscles are very important in glenohumeral force couple, that is your deltoid and your rotator cuff. In the absence of the rotator cuff, deltoid pulls the humeral head superiorly, leading towards superior dislocation. Thus, Rotator cuff maintains the humeral head centralized in the glenoid fossa. Thus, these are the glenohumeral force couples. Coming to the frozen shoulder in depth, the definition: causes, stages, pathomechanics of shoulder complex according to the stage, manual therapy for each stage of frozen shoulder, and its evidences. As the definition stated by the Brotzmann book, frozen shoulder is nothing but a condition characterized by stiffness of shoulder complex and painful restriction in both, in both active and passive movement of the glenohumeral joint in all the planes. History: as given by Codman, he was the first person who introduced the term frozen shoulder in 1934. He told that the condition described by pain at the insertion site of the deltoid, inability or difficulty in sleeping on the affected side, painful and restricted elevation and external rotation of the shoulder, and a normal radiological appearance. Coming to the description of these common features, that is, first one, slow onset. This means gradual onset of the restriction and pain in the shoulder. Second point, pain at insertion of the deltoid. As the frozen shoulder stages increases, the malposition of the scapula and humerus becomes very prominent, leading to abnormal scapulohumeral rhythm. Hence, abnormal scapulohumeral rhythm leads to overactivation of the deltoid during every activity which needs the movement of the shoulder. Hence, deltoid undergoes spasm changes. This leads to pain near the insertion site of the deltoid. Third one, inability or difficulty in sleeping on the affected side. Malposition of the scapula leads to anterior tipping of the scapula. When the position of the scapula is itself changed into anterior tipping, sleeping on the same affected side leads to reduction of subacromial space, which will lead to compression of various ligaments and nerves, causing pain on the affected side. Fourth one, painful and restricted elevation and external rotation. Frozen shoulders follows the method of restriction. First restriction movement is your internal rotation, then your external rotation, then your abduction, then your flexion. And when you treat, you need to treat it in a reverse way, that is flexion, abduction, external and internal rotation. Frozen shoulder has a normal X-ray appearance. Frozen shoulder syndrome was divided into primary or idiopathic causes by Lundberg in 1969 and those in which the condition was secondary, the cause being soft tissue injury, arthritis, fracture, hemiplegia or any other known cause. Adhesive capsulitis primarily causes fibrosis of the capsule. Fibrosis leads to tightening of the capsule. Once the capsule is tightened, the smooth movement, that is rhythmicity of the movement, is reduced. Hence, the shoulder gets frozen. This causes once the capsule gets tightened, the capsular tightening causes coracohumeral ligament tightening, which leads to restriction of passive movement of the shoulder, especially the external rotation of the shoulder. First movement restricted in frozen shoulder is external and internal rotation. Thereafter, abduction and finally the flexion. Now, what are the causes of frozen shoulder? First, main, utmost important cause is your diabetes, where your glucose crystals gets deposited in the inferior capsular raphe, thus causing the redundancy of the capsule. Particularly in shoulder complex, the capsule is very loosely attached inferiorly. This is known as inferior capsular raphe. Hence, the glucose crystals gets deposited in the highly mobile joint in the loose available space. So, glucose crystals gets deposited in the shoulder joint in the inferior raphe of your capsule, thus causing restriction in the capsular redundancy. Now, second cause being trauma. Trauma can be anything. Trauma can be hit, can be tear or anything else. When trauma occurs to the capsule, there is something called as capsular obligate translation. Splitting the term capsular trauma to the capsule obligate opposite direction translation is your translation or the movement of the humeral head. when your capsule is getting traumatized in one direction, for example in posterior direction, your humeral head will translate itself opposite side, that is your anterior, leading to the restriction in the movement of the shoulder. Coming to the stages of the frozen shoulder is divided into 4 stages, that is pre-freezing, freezing, frozen, thawing. In pre-freezing stage, pain is not at rest but at the end range of motion. The duration lasts for 1 to 3 months. Second stage, that is a freezing stage, increasing in the pain as the stage progresses. Gradually there is restriction in the range of motion. The stage duration is 3 to 6 months. Stage 3, that is your frozen stage, where the condition is worsened, pain is at the peak and the stiffness is at the peak. Pain doesn't worsen here. Duration of this stage is 6 to 12 months. Stage 4, that is your thawing stage. No pain in this stage, and this stage is known as recovery stage, where the movement can be recovered gradually. This stage lasts for 12 to 15 months. Typical feature of the stages of the frozen shoulder are stage 1, that is pre-freezing stage, pain at the end range of motion. Stage 2, that is freezing stage, night pain, and neutral isometric position of the shoulder is achieved. Here, neutral isometric position of the shoulder, that is due to your malposition of the scapula, which I will be discussing further ahead. Due to malposition of the scapula and changes occurring in the rotator cuff muscle of the shoulder, a person with the frozen shoulder maintains his shoulder in elevation and adduction. This is nothing but your neutral isometric position of the shoulder. This he does in order to reduce the tension of inflamed capsule. Stage 3, a typical feature of stage 3 are restricted motions in all the direction, sharp and acute discomfort experienced by the patient due to the tight capsule, and third point, pain at night persists. Stage 4 is nothing but recovery stage, hence slow recovery of the motion. Pathomechanics of frozen shoulder. As I already told, as the stages gradually increases, there leads to malpositioning of the scapula as well as humerus, that is your neutral isometric position attainment. Malposition of the scapula is nothing but scapula attaining a malposition in order to reduce the pain occurring in the frozen shoulder. The malposition attained by the scapula in frozen shoulder are scapula remains anteriorly tipped, elevated, upwardly rotated, slightly abducted and protracted. These are very typical features in the frozen shoulder. And if these are not reduced, no frozen shoulder gets treated properly. So manual therapies for frozen shoulder. Dividing into 2, acute stage and chronic stage. You can take the table which is given in the slides. I'll be dealing with the individual therapy in brief. Manual therapy for frozen shoulder, Mulligan mobilization given by Brian Mulligan, which states that pill crocks the principles of the Mulligan mobilization: pain relief, instant result, long lasting. Once the mobilization with movement is given, the immediate pain relief is seen, which lasts for a longer duration. That is your pill. The Croc states that when contraindicated, Mulligan mobilization shouldn't be provided, and repetitions follows the thumb rule of 3. Overpressure should be given at the end range of motion, but overpressure should be painless. Communication with the patient is very important while doing the therapy to ask whether it is paining or not. Knowledge about the Mulligan mobilization is a must. If contraindicated, should not be given, and sustenance of the glide from the start throughout the movement and till the movement rest position is attained back should be delivered. Mulligan mobilization can be given 0 to 90 degree, 90 to 120 degree and 120 degree and above, with belt, without belt. IASTM, instrument assisted soft tissue mobilization technique using M2T blade. This blade was invented by Dr. Adam Bogar from Canada. He told that using this blade you can deliver a certain and constant amount of pressure can be delivered when you are releasing a soft tissue using this blade. But this blade needs one important principle, that 45 degree and 55 degree inclination of the plane for plane 2 and plane 3 is a must. This is very important in releasing the tightened soft tissue in your chronic frozen shoulder, which can be as follows: inferior capsule, long head of triceps brachii, subscapularis, trapezius, serratus anterior, latissimus dorsi, deltoid and pectoralis. This is how the blade can be used to treat the tightened musculature, and here 2.3 H is used to reduce the tightness of the upper trapezius. Kinesiotaping. It's a form of adjunct therapy which can be used while manual therapy is given for the frozen shoulder, so that the scapula is maintained in its normal scapulohumeral rhythm. It may provide postural cues, assists with promoting proper scapular motion, which is important in scapulohumeral rhythm, biomechanical correction for pain relief during movement, cheap and less time consuming and easy to manage. There are certain techniques in which kinesiotaping can be performed, such as muscle technique, star technique, trigger point release technique, ligament technique, wherein we can either stretch the muscle. In edematous technique we can reduce the edema. In trigger point technique or star technique we can reduce the trigger point. So using those techniques which are adjunct to the basic physiotherapy, we can improvise our therapy and which can act as adjunct to the physiotherapy. Kinesio technique may also facilitate or inhibit muscle function, support joint structure and provide proprioceptive feedback. In a study by Jindal S., which was done, a comparative study of ultrasound therapy and kinesiologic taping in management of pain relief in frozen shoulder at stage 2. These are the stages where he put up his kinesiotaping for the frozen shoulder. First he targeted the infraspinatus, then he applied the tape for deltoid, then he applied the tape for supraspinatus, then for further which followed by he applied the tape for pectoralis, and then the anchoring tape I at the shoulder joint downwards the arm. Matrix rhythm therapy. Invented by Ulrich Randall, he told that all the tissues in the body operate within the certain frequency. That is, they vibrate on the certain frequency of 8 to 12 Hertz. Once any trauma has occurred, this vibration is disrupted. Hence, in frozen shoulder, the vibration of the cells around the frozen shoulder is disrupted, which is not occurring at 8 to 12 Hertz. Matrix rhythm therapy induces the cell's vibration back to 8 to 12 Hertz, thus reducing the pain, washing out of the lactic dehydrogenase and causing movement, pain-free movement and non-tightness and no edema. Matrix rhythm therapy restores the good tissue resonance. The lifting action produced by the oscillator as a horizontal micro-extension movement is transferred to the inner organs, tissue and bones. There is clearance of the extracellular matrix as the neural alpha and gamma is normalized and the venous and lymphatic flow of the entire area of improved microcirculation is accelerated. These are the exercises of the frozen shoulder, Codmans and pendulars. Codmans and pendular exercises is very important in the frozen shoulder as it is provided by the gravity assisted traction. The person has to lean himself forward and lift the affected shoulder freely and move it freely. This free movement induces the gravity assisted traction, causing the free mobilization in the shoulder, which will help in pain-free movement. Posterior tilting exercises, as already said, in malposition of the scapula, one of the main important malposition of the scapula in frozen shoulder is anterior tipping. Reducing this anterior tipping is a must to get back the scapulohumeral rhythm normal. So this posterior tilting exercises is very important. Prone lying or sitting like this as shown in the image, placing the affected extremity over the head and touching the stick which is lying on the top of your hand, touching and keeping the hand down on the couch, and repetition of this for 10 times will induce your posterior tilt in the affected scapula. Wand exercises, as you already know, using the wand producing the movement from the normal extremity towards the abnormal extremity is very important, and task specific training. Thank you.